The following podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. Like what you hear? Want more of it ad-free, uncensored, and earlier? Sign up today at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and start getting more for as little as $2 a month.
Welcome to We Have Till 5, part of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything. I am Andrew Kent, your host, founder, and I'm just kidding. I'm not going to put myself over that hard. I'm your host, Andrew Kent. With me, as always, Mr. Cole Miller. Cole, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Do you have one tone that you say? Like, do you have one mode? Like, I was like, I'm gonna pitch it to him again. Because I don't
know how to say hello to people.
Well, that's your problem, sir. I gotta inform you something. You have been employed at this point. Well, not monetarily, not yet. If you guys want to change that, head over onto patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and make sure that someday some of us, probably not Cole, actually can get paid to do this crazy thing.
Yeah, no,
Cole,
never.
Cole, you are charged every single week with being a podcast host. Are you aware that being a podcast host does entail that you actually grow some charisma and some, joie de vivre and, a little bit of flair, sir? You're gonna have to come up with at least one other way to say hello to people. You realize that?
I guess I can work on that. I mean, it can be a lot worse than this.
It's true. You could sound exactly like Michael Walsh. And let's face it, nobody wants to do that. If you want to hear exactly what I mean by not sounding like Michael Walsh, head over to WrestleMedia.ca. Sorry.
Wow, shots are being fired.
Man. Well, that's our thing. Head over to WrestleMedia.ca and check out all of the great podcasts that we have throughout the week, throughout this great network. You got shows like Lasting Mark. You got Women Crush Wrestling. You got Forging the Future. You got Wrestling with History, Ropes to Reels. Cole, am I forgetting anything? We Have Till 5. I'm forgetting one. There's seven weekly shows. Got my back on that or what? Oh my gosh! The flagship show itself, Wrestling Show.
Wow.
The Wrestling Show. I'm so sorry. It used to be called the Wrestling Show Network. I couldn't escape it. Now, I got a little lost there. I do apologize for that, but we have 7 great weekly podcasts for you to watch or listen to, of course. Mainly listen to because, podcast. Sheesh, this is not going well. But it's going better than an episode of We Have Till 5 with Drew Ferris previously, so I still feel pretty good about it. So once you head over onto our website, you can sign up for our newsletter there, see where we're going to be this summer, see when the episodes drop. It's kind of your guide. You can look at podcasts, host blogs, or even bios. Check it out over there. And then once you go to our website, once you fall in love with the cast of characters that is WrestleMedia, and you want to be part of it, you want to be part of the dream, and like I said earlier, you want to help this be something that can sustain itself. We actually do have a Patreon as well, where you can sign up for many of the different tiers. There's, $2 tiers and $10 tiers, $20 tier, all sorts of great stuff for you to get bonus episodes, exclusive podcasts, uncut, unedited, and exclusive content over there at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. If you want to help us make this dream work, please head on over to that website and put a few ducats in our bucket so that we can sustain ourselves. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Cole, why don't you tell them what we're talking about today? Do you remember? I just feel like after I do all the shilling, I gotta pitch it to you instead of do more talking. So what are we talking about today, sir?
I do not remember, actually.
Cole,
I know,
Miller.
Yeah.
I told you at 4 o'clock, man. That's absolutely shocking.
Do you know what I was doing at 4 o'clock?
This is a ridiculously shocking outcome to this conversation.
So shocking. I feel like I failed everybody.
Well, we're talking about some outcomes that I personally don't think failed anybody, but they sure did shock the living crap out of just about everybody watching. This week, we are talking about the most shocking match outcomes in the history of WWE. Quite frankly, I haven't ever been quiet about the fact that I'm primarily a WWE fan, so I'm sorry ECW fans, WCW fans, even you AEW fans, or you AWA fans, or you TNA fans. This is a WWE list, the most shocking outcomes in the history of this great company. And what kind of inspired that list is I was actually listening to a fellow podcaster, The Solid Monster Sounds Off, and it was one of his mailbag questions this week, the idea of the most shocking finish in wrestling history and what they could have done to sort of, why it was so shocking and anything like that. It got me thinking about what are the most shocking outcomes in wrestling history? And so I put together this little list. Cole, I know you haven't been a wrestling fan for too long, but when I say shocking outcome, is there anything that might immediately come to your mind besides, you know what? Don't steal anything off. I'm kidding. And anything that sort of comes to mind that we'll talk about when we get to the honorable mentions?
Well, what do you mean by shocking?
Well, then I better just get to the list. If you need some clarification,
this shocking can mean a whole lot of different things. That's it can be a big move. It can be like the move that nobody expected to happen.
Sure.
Something that, or just a finish that ended in a way that people didn't expect. When I hear shocking, I think, going into a main event and you think one person is going to win, and you with 100% certainty, you think that Undertaker is going to beat Brock Lesnar, and then it goes back on that.
Sure.
That's shocking to me.
That is shocking. You are absolutely right. And that might be a little piece of foreshadowing, my friend.
Oh.
You are absolutely right. Those kind of outcomes are exactly the things that I'm talking about. So I'll kind of let the list define itself here. I'll start with number 5 right off the hop. This is one that I had to include simply for myself. This was an important moment of my wrestling fandom. It's something that I wanted so badly to happen, but I just didn't think it was going to. You see, Brock Lesnar was absolutely domination in the year of 2004. He came into the company just a fire ablaze and became the youngest WWE champion in history at the time. And he was on fire. And you see, there was this fella, Cole, named Eddie Guerrero. And Eddie was a wrestler's wrestler. He was a luchador. He was one of the most beloved wrestlers in the history of the game. I
think I've heard of him.
Oh, yeah, you've heard of Eddie Guerrero?
Maybe, there's a chance.
Latino Heat. Oh, yeah. No, Eddie Guerrero is one of the best of all time. And for me, this is an absolutely 100%... Not that this doesn't belong on the list. It popped up on a lot of the lists that I saw. But for me, this has to be number 5. It has to be on the list. I wanted this to happen so bad. It was the night that Eddie Guerrero beat Brock Lesnar. It was by a bunch of freaking gaga. It was not a clean victory by any means. But this is the night that Eddie won the title from Brock at No Way Out 2004. Any chance you've ever seen this match, Cole?
I have not.
That is totally fine. I would accept nothing less from a freaking chump like you. Cole, this you just got to understand that this was a night. I've been a wrestling fan for about 3 or 4 years at the time, and Eddie Guerrero is one of my favorites. I have always been a rooter for the underdog. Even back then, I wasn't much of like a big man wrestler. I liked Brock. I thought Brock was a pretty good wrestler. He was fun to watch. He was gigantic. He was throwing people around the ring. It was ridiculous. But man, did I like Eddie Guerrero? Did I like Chris Jericho? Did I like Chris Benoit? Did I like Crash Holly, for goodness gracious, and Raven? And I liked the littler guys who had a little bit more finesse to their game. And I wanted Eddie to be champion so bad. And it happened, man, and it wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen. I never thought of it. I dared to dream that Eddie Guerrero could possibly pull this out. And on that night, he absolutely did. And I don't know what else to say about this match. The match is pretty good as it is. I mean, as I'm sure anybody who watched the product in 2004 could bet. Say what you want about Brock Lesnar today. I know Jenny Edie from Woman Crush Wrestling, which you can catch on WrestleMedia.ca anytime you want on demand. I know she's not a big Brock Lesnar fan today. I don't know many people on the network besides Adam Contant who is a big Brock Lesnar fan today. But man, could this guy go in 2004. Man, could this guy go in 2004. He matched Eddie move for move. They had a drama-filled match. The whole crowd was absolutely 150,000% standing behind Eddie Guerrero on this night. And when he finally gets that victory, man, that place exploded, and he hopped into the crowd. It's an iconic scene, him holding the belt in the sea of people just celebrating with him. It was glorious, it was fantastic, and it led to one of my favorite WWE Championship runs of the modern era for sure. Moving on to number 4, this is not one that I necessarily experienced live. You might not even necessarily know about this one, although it is pretty much, you've done your wrestling homework. So this is something that pops up all over the place as being maybe the very first iconic moment in the history of Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw debuted, I believe it was 1993, and this was very early on in its infancy, where Razor Ramon, one of the hottest heels in the wrestling company that very day, feuding with the likes of Macho Man and Bret Hart and all the top guys. He wasn't winning these matches because, he was doing his job and getting the babyface over. But he came up against the guy known only that night as The Kid. Cole, do you know who The Kid turned out to be?
I do not.
Do you know the legend that is X-Pac?
Might have heard of him.
This time I can't tell if you're being
no, I've heard of X-Pac.
or not. Okay, fantastic. Well, you know the term X-Pac heat?
I know, I've actually never heard that.
Wow, man, what a freaking newbie you are. So what it means, just to get off on a side tangent, because that's all what we have till 5 is all about. The idea that when you get X-Pac heat, it's not, people aren't booing you because you're a bad guy. They're booing you because they want you to go away. That's like that that's kind of the gag. That guy's got X-Pac heat. Means he wants to go away. Jinder Mahal had X-Pac heat.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So the Kid, who he was known at the time, he went through a couple names: the Lightning Kid, the Kamikaze Kid. He was just a jobber on TV. Do you know how like James Ellsworth? You remember when Braun Strowman was running through nameless, faceless people?
Yep.
Some of them even chinless.
Pulling that sweet chinless music.
I freaking love that. So the Kid shows up on WWE TV. He's been losing. He's been mainly enhancement talent. It's important to kind of know at this point, Raw was not like the juggernaut that it is today. It was not some of the more important WWE television programming. So you usually got maybe one match that really meant something, and the rest were enhancement matches. It was something that WWE did a lot in the early days of the business, where instead of, you know how NXT does, they do it sometimes, but NXT is mostly a competitive show, correct?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Like, where they put on good matches between wrestlers, every once in a while you'll get a guy come out, and they're trying to get Lars Sullivan over or something like that, and he squashes a few.
That's been
NXT,
happening a lot more recently, I'd say. And they
need to do it more. I'm a big proprietor of that, as sort of boring as it can be sometimes. And maybe it wouldn't work the same way today, with the attention span of wrestling fans, and maybe that's a conversation for another day and another show, but it was always very important in getting wrestlers' move sets over and getting them over without having to beat another talent. So even with something like, how Aleister Black is debuting soon?
Yeah.
Like, well, even though he already debuted, but they don't want the WWE wants you to forget that he was in that Ricochet tag team, and that he had a match at WrestleMania, and for the titles, and he was a good guy. Well, now they're going to get in the place where it sure sounds to me. Now we're recording this on Thursday night. Oh, the show drops tomorrow, so I'm gonna stay nice and current with this. Like. Have they, and again, knowing that I don't really watch the product, unfortunately, week to week, I try to stay updated as I can, but have they revealed who Aleister Black is referring to when somebody mysteriously knocked on his door and blah, blah, blah? Have they revealed that yet?
Not that I am aware of. Okay.
Well, I apologize if I'm behind the times on this, but my guess is that it's probably Bray Wyatt. That's kind of gonna how they're debuting him.
Yeah.
It makes sense. All you have to do is let me. Now, I kind of hope that it's that the leading theory that I'm hearing is that they're going to be in a match together, and I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I feel like it's more maybe a recruitment. But let's pretend for one moment that Bray Wyatt.
Wait, they did reveal.
Oh, what was it?
Not who you'd expect it to be. You might call this shocking.
Right, what is it?
The Swiss Cyborg.
Oh. That's not shocking. That's underwhelming. Next week on We Have Till 5, the most underwhelming reveals. That's actually a freaking great list. Gobbledygooker number 1. So, spoiler alert. Anyways,
it was me the whole time.
The higher power is Vince McMahon. It's me, pal. So when you have two wrestlers, oftentimes what happens now is that basically one of them has to lose, but neither of them should lose. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to keep a guy strong, but if you're going to debut a guy against another top guy who's also debuting, like, you don't want either one of them to lose. And so that the enhancement talent sort of bridges that gap, and they allow guys like Razor Ramon to get over on television and really display his dominance and just get him over as a strong, mean heel without having to compromise any talent that actually means anything. You can't put Razor Ramon over Bret Hart every single week. It's just not how it works. Like the way that's what gets you Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus whoever every single week, right? Wasn't there a streak for a while where Bobby Roode and Chad Gable wrestled, I think it was the Revival, like in some combination every single week for like 8 weeks of television?
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Like, that's just embarrassing. So enhancement talent, I think, is important. So the kid at the point was he was just enhancement talent. And on this night, Cole, have you ever seen this night?
I don't think I have, so fill me in.
So this was probably the first iconic moment in Raw history where the kid, he's getting thrown around the ring by Razor Ramon. It's business as usual. The kid's going to lose again. It doesn't even matter. Who cares? And all of a sudden, he comes off the top rope with a moonsault and he pins Razor Ramon clean in the middle of the ring, getting himself the name the 1-2-3 Kid. And the legend was born from that. Eventually it got Razor Ramon over as a babyface. It got the kid on television, the 1-2-3 Kid, now had a persona. He went on to be a tag team champion. And with I believe it was Marty Jannetty and Bob Holly at the time who sort of took him under his wing. So he became popular because of this shocking upset, and this is one of the most shocking things to happen in wrestling ever. This was not supposed to happen. There was not, this was not the typical, the blueprint for WWE. It was, Razor wins. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. On to the next. But this was huge, and it was done so well that there was actually conspiracy theories for a few years, even to this day, where they just figured it was Scott Hall and Sean Waltman went into business for themselves and tried to come up with a shocking moment. And Scott Hall's gone on record in recent years on the Stone Cold podcast, said, no, I honestly just met him for the first time that day. I didn't even know who he was. This whole thing was sort of planned 6 months in advance, that we need, Razor was told that, by Vince, like, hey, we got to turn you babyface. The fans are turning you anyways, so we got to take the leap, or else, we're going to miss the boat here. And their plan was to sort of, I don't know if it was the 1, 2, 3 kids specifically, but it was like, we're going to let a jobber get one over on you. Eventually you're going to take this kid under your wing, and you're going to become the babyface. So without this moment, I don't think Raw, maybe gets off the ground like it did as being like must-see TV.
Yeah.
The first time that they sort of broke the formula, and people began to have to tune in.
Yeah, I guess before it was just like, we know what's going to happen, kind of like it is now.
Yeah.
But once things start happening, then you feel like you have to watch it, or else you're not going to be up to date, and you're going to miss everything that's going on.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it, and that's when Raw got so popular in the 90s, 98, 99, when you had no idea what Stone Cold was going to do. And I'm not so ignorant, because there are too many years in the middle there, especially, through the 1995, where Raw was kind of like a joke, an industry joke. But without this sort of first iconic moment, Raw would have been pretty uneventful till about 1996 or 7. So this was a huge moment, and while I didn't experience it live, it is undeniably one of the most shocking things to happen in WWE in terms of match outcomes. Number 3 is another one that I'm probably going to have to explain to you a little bit. But this one is absolutely ridiculously iconic, and it's not only shocking for the outcome itself, because Hulk Hogan had been champion for, many, 4 years or something at the time. I can't remember, maybe 2 or 3 years, thousands of days anyways, 1,000 days, I should say. And at main event, the very first main event, main event, on February 5th, 1988, Andre the Giant and the twin referee twist shocked the world, and it changed the title changed hands for the first time in a few years. Cole, this is often called one of the greatest angles in wrestling history. Have you come across the twin referee angle at all in your wrestling history check-in?
Once again, I'm going to have to say that I have not.
That's okay, Cole. I knew when I was putting this list together that there was going to be a lot on this list that I was going to have to explain to you, and that's okay, man. This is one for the ages, though. So Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan are locked in this feud. It's coming out of WrestleMania 3, and coming out of WrestleMania 3, not coming out. It's heading into WrestleMania 4, I guess I should say, but it's sometime after WrestleMania 3. And Andre the Giant still working for Ted DiBiase. He's being the biggest heel in the company, and he's a thorn in Hulk Hogan's spine. There's no other way to say it. And on this night, Ted DiBiase has come up with the most dastardly plan in wrestling history, and he is actually, in kayfabe, he had a twin referee. So you know who Earl Hebner is, correct?
Yeah,
we've talked about him on a couple.
We talked about him.
We've talked about him on a couple.
We talked about old Earl
on a couple.
We know him
on
well.
A couple past episodes that we have till 5. You can listen to those in the archives at WrestleMedia.ca, of course. And he has a brother, Dave, and they were both, part of that scandal that we talked about last week. But one thing that I honestly didn't know, because I think they look totally different, but in about 1988, they looked like pretty much the exact same person. So what they did was, I believe that Earl Hebner was Earl Hebner was a referee in some other company, maybe the AWA, at the time, but his contract had just ended and nobody really knew it, and he signed with the WWE.
All right.
So what they did in the kayfabe world was Dave Hebner he was a well-known WWE referee, but they actually had his twin brother come in and count the dirty pin, thus screwing Hulk Hogan out of the title. And it was this shocking, unbelievable kind of flurry while people were trying to kind of understand what was going on, and they, Hulk Hogan being ridiculously over the top in the back. What kind of plastic surgery did you have to pay to get that guy? There's $100 bills falling out of his pockets, brother. It was, go watch the promo, go watch it. Anybody who hasn't seen it yet, just Google main event, February 5th, 1988. You'll see the twin referee twist. I think it's personally one of the greatest twists in wrestling history, just in general, and easily, obviously, one of the top 5 most shocking things to ever happen coming out of a match. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. If only for the bump that Earl Hebner has to take over the top rope. A bunch of people Hulk Hogan whips him over the top rope, and the people who are supposed to catch him just totally whiff on him, and he takes
They were not there.
I think Hulk just threw him too far. I don't think it's the people's fault. I think just Hulk was, I guess, hulked up. I don't know. I don't feel good about that joke, but he just threw him too far, man. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Cole, do you want to hear about another thing you have no idea about?
Sure, we're on a roll. Let's keep this going.
Well, even before Hulk Hogan became WWF champion, there was a man who held the title from 1963 to 1971, and truthfully, Cole, there is no number 1, there is no number 2, there is only generations. Personally, I think if you are of that former generation, there is no way that there's ever going to be a more shocking WWE moment than this. If you're part of my generation, the number 1 is undeniable, I think. But this is the night that Bruno Sammartino lost the WWF title on January 18th, 1971, after a staggering 2,803 days.
That's a lot of days.
That is a massive amount of days. It's a record that obviously will never be broken. It's just not. Yeah. It's just not the nature of wrestling anymore for that to ever happen. 1963 to 1971, Cole. Let that sink in. That's, people complain when John Cena held the title for like 375 days.
People complain when somebody holds it for like a month now.
Well, when that somebody is Jinder Mahal, I think they have a little bit of right.
Oh, they have every right to complain.
Jinder the Jinder! So anyways, just a little bit of background on this. Bruno Sammartino was one of the most popular professional wrestlers of all time. He was a legend. They called him the living legend. People didn't just go to the wrestling matches to see wrestling. They went to see Bruno Sammartino. It's an undeniable fact. Bruno had beaten everybody. He had beaten every single person that there was, including the man who dethroned him here, Ivan Koloff. He'd beaten everybody. Nobody could touch him. It was, some people really credit Bruno's success throughout the 60s and 70s as being the reason why WWE booked Hulk Hogan the way that he booked, Stone Cold, to this day, John Cena and Roman Reigns. The good guy fights from underneath to thwart the dastardly bad guy and come out on top looking like Superman. And it worked for decades. And it worked for Bruno, and it worked for Hulk, and worked for Stone Cold. that was pretty much the last time it really worked, with the audience at large. Because, I mean, you see what happens now whenever they try to quote-unquote shove somebody down our throat. But people didn't go just to see wrestling, Cole. They went to see Bruno. He was the most popular thing in wrestling. So, when Ivan Koloff came off the top rope with a diving knee drop and put his arms across the champion for the 3 count, it is deathly quiet. It is deathly quiet in Madison Square Garden, the world's greatest arena. They can't even fathom what they've just seen. There's nothing that they can even compute. Ivan Koloff actually even leaves the ring. He's announced the winner, and they don't award him the belt until he gets to the locker room. Because what
were they worried of?
Riot.
No.
Dude, this was back in the day before people knew wrestling was fake. I used that F word. Sorry, Adam. He's probably going to bleep it, too. Before they knew wrestling was...
Wrestling isn't fake!
I hope you didn't pop that microphone, pal.
No, I'm still good.
I can't see your levels. No, man. This is when people still thought it was real, damn it. It was still real to them, damn it. And people were confused and they were angry. There were people crying in the crowd. This was a massive, massive deal. And like I said, there is no number 1. There is no number 2. The only reason this falls to number 2 for me is because it's so before my time. I don't think I can do all the research I want, and I can read all the articles I want, but I'll never truly understand what that felt like. I get number 1. And we've already alluded to it. I tried very hard to make something else number 1, because I hate when the list sort of turns out predictably. But this is the most shocking thing that's ever happened in my wrestling fandom, and it was the night Brock Lesnar broke the streak. Finally, Cole, something you can talk about.
Something I know.
All right,
I can contribute.
I need to take a little sip of my deliciously cold, frothy, barley-ish beverage here. So, how about you kind of take the reins on this one for just a little bit, and then I'll rejoin you in a second.
Well, as many people know, the Undertaker had a long-running streak going. He had not lost it, and it just kept going, and nobody really thought it would end. From what I know, he proposed that it end a couple times before this, but they kept shooting him down. And then he went into a match against everybody's least favorite beast, everybody's favorite one-trick pony, Brock Lesnar. And nobody thought that The Undertaker would lose.
I have said it on this podcast. Here it is, and if you've heard it for the 10th time, I apologize. But this was... Going in, I thought this was the biggest waste of a WrestleMania match. Because I was never so sure that The Undertaker was going to win than when they booked him against Brock Lesnar. I had told people, I said, this makes no sense. Why book this match? There is no way Brock Lesnar breaks the streak. There's no need for that. It made more sense for Triple H to break the streak than it does for Brock Lesnar. There's no reason why Brock needs it. There's no reason why Brock should have it. And this is a snoozer match because it doesn't matter, because it's not going to happen. How am I even supposed to believe that The Undertaker is going to lose this match? Now, little did I know they were going to do an even worse one a few years later with Shane freaking McMahon. Man, if they would have put Shane McMahon over The Undertaker at WrestleMania,
That would have been the worst.
I think there would have been a riot. Talking about riot with Bruno, that would have been the most McMahon thing to do ever. But yeah, man, this was, I will never, ever, ever, as long as I live, forget this match. I will never forget this match. And you know what? This is a bad wrestling match. This is almost our generation's Hogan slams Andre. Where the moment and the magnitude of what happened has cemented this match, this point in history into the annals of wrestling lore. But it's not a good match. Just like WrestleMania 3 is a badly worked match. It's Hulk Hogan, who just in America didn't have a good work rate, and Andre the Giant, who was basically a broken man come 1987. But my goodness, that slam will live on forever, and there are people out there who genuinely believe that WrestleMania 3, Hogan versus Andre, is the greatest match in wrestling history because of its importance. And that's, I think, where this kind of lies for our generation. This idea that this match was bad, but it's got the most iconic modern wrestling moment that there could be, and I don't see how they would ever top it.
I have no idea. Nobody has the cult following of The Undertaker that could lead to such an iconic thing. Like, everything is just kind of monotonous at this point.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't know if it's so much like a problem with the modern product, or if it's just again, maybe another conversation for another show, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's just the nature of the beast, the way that it is. I don't think people get over in the same way. But yeah, I don't think that there's ever going to be a moment that is like this. And again, much like the Bruno thing, pardon me, you could hear a pin drop in that place. Nobody could believe it. Mm-hmm. It was the moment that was not supposed to happen. We figured that if The Undertaker was ever going to lose the streak, it was going to be to CM Punk. It was going to be to Edge. It was going to be to Batista. Some younger talent who could sort of brag about it for the rest of their career. Not a guy like Brock Lesnar, who was already made. And now, just to sort of chat about it, I know you haven't been a wrestling fan too long, but just what are your thoughts on even ending the streak in the first place? Which camp do you fall into? Do you fall into it had to end eventually, even if you, and I'm not talking about is Brock the right guy? He's not the right guy.
Yeah.
I think they used it well. I think they did the best they could with a bad decision. Nobody has ever been booked as strongly, I think, in modern wrestling than Brock Lesnar has been booked ever since WrestleMania 30. But person aside, are you in the camp where, yes, the streak had to end to benefit somebody else? Or are you in the camp of, nope, it should have been that intangible in wrestling, and it should have been the one guy who gets to carry that sort of undefeated legacy into retirement?
I'm not upset with either option. I think both are viable.
The fence belongs to the devil, Cole. The fence belongs to the devil, man. Pick a side, bro.
Well, I think when you get to the point, when you get to the 20, the 21, then it's like, why even stop now? That's what, I guess I do fall on the side of, just let him have it. You want to create this masterful, this legend, then create it. Feed into it, and just don't let it end. Also, I think it would be like an option. It's like his last WrestleMania ever. He just lose. Like, that's when you end the streak.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, yeah, and we haven't even talked about that in terms of, like, why even continue? Like, you should just retire after that. Because now he's, what, 22-2? Like, he won at WrestleMania 31 and 32, so he's 23-2, I think.
24-2.
Oh, that's right, because that John Cena match counts. That's the worst. That's the worst. I forgot about that John Cena match, that 39. It was Undertaker's best match in since about WrestleMania 29 too. That's the sad part.
Yeah.
All jokes aside, I can see why everybody sits on the fence with this. I am going to have to. I'm a history guy. Like, people got mad at me a few years ago when the Blue Jays were kind of making a run for the World Series. And there was a possibility that they were going to meet somebody like the Chicago Cubs. And the Cubs it was the year before, I think, the Cubs won the World Series. And I told people, I said, listen, I'm going to have a hard time cheering against the Cubs in the World Series, even if it's the Blue Jays. Why? Because I'm a fan of seeing history made. And at the time, the Cubs had not won the World Series in, I think, over 100 years. And that's huge. And to see that, to be able to tell my grandkids someday that I saw that game, that I saw the Cubs win the World Series, I was like, that might be worth it over a Toronto World Series. I was going to have a hard time. So with this, I think I got to err on the side of history. And I got to say, he should have kept the streak. As much as I was for many years in the camp that, like, nope, it should have been ended by a guy like CM Punk or, a young Randy Orton or Edge or just anybody who was up and coming. It's got to be somebody who can brag about it for the rest of their career. But the streak should end. It's a wrestling tradition to sort of, put him over on the way out. Just like, did Kurt Angle... Oh, I'm blanking. It mattered so little to me. Did Kurt Angle lose at WrestleMania this year to Baron Corbin? He lost, right? Did he win? Wow, Kurt... See? And this... Oh my gosh, I'm going to get off on a tangent here because I don't even feel stupid, Cole. I'm not sitting here going like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I don't know. I'm going to get off on a tangent. This is why retirement matches need to happen. This is why retirement matches need to matter. Because I actually can't remember if he won or lost, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
What an underwhelming match. You know what? Tweet me. Cole, don't Google it right now. I don't want to know. I want to let this hang. I'm not saving face here. I'm making a point. I literally can't remember, and I need you to tweet it at me. I need you to Facebook it to me. Somebody give me crap for it, but I'm not going to feel bad. That should have been a better match. It should have been Kurt Angle and John Cena, because you know what? We would have remembered the outcome of that match, I guarantee you. But anyways, I gotta go on the side of history, and I gotta say it's something that had never happened and honestly will never happen again.
No, never.
And even if it did happen again, it wouldn't mean the same thing.
Well, it would just be a cheap reproduction.
Well, that being said, just to kind of, devil's advocate myself here, I mean, that's a kind of in those years, then you could tell at that point it would get predictable for a couple years.
Yeah.
They would have to try to do it sneakily. It's the only way I think they could get away with it. They'd have to try to do it sneakily. Edge. At one point, when Edge met The Undertaker at WrestleMania 3? Was it 3 or 4? 23 or 24? I don't really remember. But the year that the Undertaker faced Edge, the Edge was actually undefeated at WrestleMania. He was like 10-0 at WrestleMania. It just sort of happened, and they decided to sort of make it into a thing, and eventually, obviously, Edge lost and the Undertaker kept his streak, but it would almost have to do it like that, and it could work, but the reality is it's never going to happen again. And so, yes, final answer, I got to err on the side of history. I don't think he should have lost it. I think not only is it the wrong guy to do it, if they got to do it, they shouldn't have done it in the first place. Cole, I have a couple honorable mentions, but is there anything that kind of, while we were talking about this in your era, be it AEW, be it WCW, something to come out of your mind here, is there anything, and it's okay if it's a no, don't feel like you just got to fill some content here. We are getting over, we're getting a little overtime here. Is there anything that comes to mind, shocking outcomes for you while you were watching wrestling?
No shocking outcomes that I can think of.
And here's why wrestling, at least the WWE, is in a bit of a decline right now. Because there's no unpredictability left. Whatever happened to unpredictability? That's the theme song to Full House, Cole, just in case you
Thanks for filling me in.
Are too young to understand that joke.
Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today.
I'm just going to give my honorable mentions really quick. I don't want to. I think I'd like to end it mostly on the Brock thing, so I don't want to go into a big tangent on these things. I just got two. Zack Ryder getting his WrestleMania moment at WrestleMania 32 by winning the Money in the Bank. It was the Intercontinental Championship ladder match. And Kevin Owens beating Big Match John on his very first WWE main roster match at Elimination Chamber 15. Neither of those things was supposed to happen. Very shocking. Very enjoyable. Cole, tell them what we're talking about next week, all right?
Next week. So this past week, Kevin Owens, I don't know if you saw this, Andrew, but he gave quite a promo.
Did he now?
Yeah, he called out Shane McMahon.
For what?
For taking television time from the talent. And various other things. So it got me thinking about promos that have gotten maybe a little too real.
Okay.
And so these may be promos that were unscripted, and the talent, the superstar, actually just went off on their own and started calling out the company, calling out another wrestler, or ones that were scripted and the company decided that this was a good idea. So we're going to be looking at the top 5 promos that got real.
I'm really looking forward to this, man. I'm excited. I already know what my number 1 is. It should be no surprise what my number 1 is.
I think everybody knows what your number 1 is.
I'm a huge mark for this guy, so it doesn't matter. Although, you know what? Now that I'm just thinking right now, 2 of my favorite wrestlers have got real on the mic in at least the last 20 years or so. So I'm looking forward to this list. I'm gonna have to do some research for myself. Might even have to have my own top 5. We'll go one for one, man. I'm really looking forward to next week. Cole, anything else to add on shocking WWE match outcomes?
Only that if you were to look out your window right now, Andrew, and look at the moon.
Shut up about the moon. We just had a freaking great episode, and you're going to ruin it with the friggin' moon talk at the end?
Yep. They have to. It's a wax and give us tonight, Andrew. And that might be shocking to some of you. But it's not shocking to me.
No way! That was good, dude. Oh, frig! I was trying so hard to give that awkward silence and just like end the show. Oh, you freaking! I'm far away from the mic. You guys can't even hear me. That was just a real moment. We have till 5. Oh my gosh, that was hysterical. Cole, I never even knew you were able to make jokes like that. Oh, see, because that's the thing that I say all the time. Anyways, yeah, we're not going to get any better than that.
No, definitely not. I've peaked. I've peaked for the rest of this show forever.
That's it, man. It's been great working with you. I'm going on to my 12th host for We Have Till 5 starting next week. I'm actually going to host the show with the clone of myself, and it's going to be the most obnoxious show in the history of the network.
I'm not listening anymore.
All right. Well, on that point, I mean, I guess it's just time that when it comes to the most shocking WWE match outcomes in history, I've been Andrew, he's been Cole, and we are breaking the hole.
This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything. Here's what you're missing out on right now over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this week. Nobody actually knows what I look like.
Nobody, just me, unfortunately. And you gotta.
Sukram does.
Yeah, Sukram knows what you look like. I guess that's true. Adam knows what you look like. You met Adam a couple times, haven't you?
Met him at your wedding.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you need.
Oh, and I did an episode with Jeff, so we Skyped and you got to see what I look like.
Classic Jeff.
Want more? Sign up now at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.